Congress leader Digvijaya Singh is now in another controversy. He's apparently made a derogatory remark against one of his party colleague and Rahul Gandhi's close aide, Meenakshi Natarajan. Digvijaya Singh, while praising the young leader's rising draft in the Congress and her ability to connect with the masses, used a sexist slur. Listen in.
मीनाक्षी नटराजन जी आपकी लोकसभा की सदस्य गांधीवादी है, सरल है, ईमानदार है, सबके पास जाती है, गांव-गांव जाती है। मैं अभी कल से इनके इलाके देख रहा हूं, मुझे भी 40-42 साल का अनुभव है, मैं भी पुराना जौहरी हूं राजनीति के ऊपर। थोड़ी बात पता पड़ जाता कौन फर्जी कौन सही है। ये 100 टन माल है और गरीबों की लड़ाई लड़ती है, और मंदसौर जैसे जिले की गुटबाजी में नहीं पड़ती। मीनाक्षी नटराजन जी आपकी लोकसभा की सदस्य गांधीवादी है, सरल है, ईमानदार है, सबके पास जाती है, गांव-गांव जाती है। मैं अभी कल से इनके इलाके में देख रहा हूं, मुझे भी 40-42 साल का अनुभव है, मैं भी पुराना जौहरी हूं राजनीति के ऊपर। थोड़ी सी बात पता पड़ जाता कौन फर्जी है कौन सही है। ये 100 टन माल है और गरीबों की लड़ाई लड़ती है, और मंदसौर जैसे जिले की गुटबाजी में नहीं पड़ती। मीनाक्षी नटराजन जी आपकी लोकसभा की सदस्य गांधीवादी है, सरल है, ईमानदार है, सबके पास जाती है, गांव-गांव जाती है। मैं अभी कल से इनके इलाके में देख रहा हूं, मुझे भी 40-42 साल का अनुभव है, मैं भी पुराना जौहरी हूं राजनीति के ऊपर। थोड़ी सी बात पता पड़ जाता कौन फर्जी है कौन सही है। ये 100 टन माल है और गरीबों की लड़ाई।
Well, my colleague Kartikeya Sharma is with us on the phone line. Kartikeya, I just want you to explain to us the context in which this remark was made and what exactly does it mean?
I think Digvijaya Singh really made a wrong choice of words. Probably he wanted to decorate Meenakshi Natarajan with adjectives which would describe her in glorious terms as a very loyal congresswoman, a professional politician, a good, solid organizational worker. But somehow I think the word went wrong, and the tunch was used, which in common parlance in northern India, some would say will have a sexist element to it. But nonetheless, if you look at the whole speech, I think he perhaps wanted to convey a different meaning, but really used the wrong word.
Alright, so is it merely a choice of wrong words, wrong turn of phrase, as it may seem to appear to some, considering its colloquial Hindi in which Digvijaya Singh seemed to be addressing the party workers there, or does this in a way reflect a sexist mindset? Well, that's a question many would ask Kartikeya, but Digvijaya Singh, considering that Meenakshi Natarajan is somebody who's really close to Rahul Gandhi, just tell us a bit more about the leader in question here, about whom Digvijaya Singh has made these comments.
You see, Digvijaya Singh was talking about Meenakshi Natarajan. Digvijaya Singh was talking about Meenakshi Natarajan. She is Lok Sabha MP from Madhya Pradesh, very close to Rahul Gandhi, a powerful force within Madhya Pradesh, had been NSUI president, Congress president also. He was describing her in terms of the sort of work she has done, how close she is to Rahul Gandhi, and the sort of experience she has in politics. And in that post, the word tunch got used. And I have to say that if you look at the whole speech, he is making a lot of statements about her good work. But if you just go by that word, and I would say that in colloquial North Indian word, the word tunch, some will say, will qualify for a remark which is sexist. It can be interpreted in both ways. But the fact of the matter is that he chose a word, so he'll be open to that criticism, because word in itself has its own connotation. There is no doubt about it, Ruchika.
Kartikeya, I just want you to stay on with us. We'd like to play out what exactly Digvijaya Singh had said and how this could actually qualify for a sexist slur. Let's listen in again.
मीनाक्षी नटराजन जी आपकी लोकसभा की सदस्य गांधीवादी है, सरल है, ईमानदार है, सबके पास जाती है, गांव-गांव जाती है। मैं अभी कल सिंह के इलाके में देख रहा हूं, मुझे भी 40-42 साल का अनुभव है, मैं भी पुराना जौहरी हूं राजनीति के। थोड़ी सी बात पता पड़ जाता कौन फर्जी है कौन सही है। ये 100 टन माल है और गरीबों की लड़ाई लड़ती है, गरीबों की लड़ाई लड़ती है और मंदसौर जैसे जिले की गुटबाजी में नहीं पड़ती। मीनाक्षी नटराजन जी आपकी लोकसभा की यहाँ सदस्य है, गांधीवादी है, सरल है, ईमानदार है, सबके पास जाती है, गांव-गांव जाती है। मैं अभी कल से के इलाके में देख रहा हूं, मुझे भी 40-42 साल का अनुभव है, मैं भी पुराना जौहरी हूं राजनीति के। थोड़ी सी बात पता पड़ जाता कौन फर्जी है कौन सही है। ये 100 टन माल है और गरीबों की लड़ाई लड़ती है, गरीबों की लड़ाई लड़ती है और मंदसौर जैसे जिले की गुटबाजी में नहीं पड़ती। मीनाक्षी नटराजन जी आपकी लोकसभा की यहाँ सदस्य है, गांधीवादी है, सरल है, ईमानदार है, सबके पास जाती है, गांव-गांव जाती है। मैं अभी कल से के इलाके में देख रहा हूं, मुझे भी 40-42 साल का अनुभव है, मैं भी पुराना जौहरी हूं राजनीति को। थोड़ी सी बात पता पड़ जाता कौन फर्जी है कौन सही है। ये 100 टन माल है और गरीबों की लड़ाई लड़ती है, गरीबों की लड़ाई लड़ती है और मंदसौर जैसे जिले की गुटबाजी में नहीं पड़ती।
All right, editor of Manushi, Madhu Kishwar is now joining us on the phone line. Ms. Kishwar, if you heard the entire comment that Digvijaya Singh has made, 100 tunch maal hai, he's saying that मैं जौहरी हूँ, I can tell real from fake. This entire speech, if you hear, where he's actually praising Meenakshi Natarajan to high heaven. How do you see this particular comment where he's described her as 100 tunch maal?
See, to tell you the truth, this is the least bothersome part of it. The rest of it is so full of lies. To me, those lies matter much more than how he chooses to describe one of his party colleagues. We all know that he's got verbal diarrhea. Mr. Digvijaya Singh really doesn't know how to control his tongue. And for him to say, कांग्रेस को पहचान है, मैं पारकी हूँ, मैं जोहरी हूँ. Well, we see all the Johris and the Parkis that Digvijaya Singh has collected around him, where it's leading the Congress party to. And the fact that हम गरीबों की लड़ाई लड़ते हैं, no, then Congress party, far from fighting गरीबों की लड़ाई, is actually making this country and its poor into giant begging ball. India is becoming
Ms. Kishwar,
a giant.
but do you have a problem with the turn of phrase there that has been used by Mr. Digvijaya Singh in this particular speech?
Of course, it is very ghatiya. There's no doubt about it. But instead of focusing on just one phrase, which I don't like one bit, it's very low level. However, to me, what's important is for him not to realize that गरीबों की लड़ाई तो बहुत दूर की बात. They have turned the people of this country into bhikharis who are to get 1 rupee kilo rice, 2 rupee kilo wheat, because this politics of begging bowl, which is actually throwing crumbs at the poor.
Right. Ms. Kishwar, we'll talk about that in detail. I just want you to hold on and stay on with us for a moment. We also have BJP Vice President Ms. Smriti Irani now joining us. Ms. Irani, how do you see this comment, distasteful, off-color remark by Digvijaya Singh? And do you see this as the fact that the leader has tried to objectify one of her party colleagues?
I understand that the Congress party had held a workshop with regards to how congressmen should interact with the media and specifically on social media just a few days ago. Post that workshop, we have a shockingly insensitive remark from MPs like Raj Babbar and Mr. Masood with regards to how Indians can have paid bhar ka khana in 5 rupees and 12 rupees. And today, another shocking and sensitive remark comes from the erstwhile Digvijaya Singh, who has made it a habit to offend Indians at large by use of very despicable words, phrases, or creating or manufacturing circumstances that offend a sensible Indian. As a political activist in Indian politics, I'm of the opinion that any gentleman who has within his party reacted in such a distasteful manner towards his own female colleague, I think that the Madhya Pradesh ladies who voted Digvijaya Singh out of power, I think need to be complimented today for their foresight. And such a gentleman forever will stay out of power in a state like Madhya Pradesh.
Ms. Irani, you may have issues with Digvijay Singh on several subjects, really, as you pointed out, the issue of poverty and, of course, the debate over Butler House encounter, which is refusing to die down primarily because of the statements that are made by Mr. Digvijay Singh. But sticking to this particular statement that he has made, do you feel offended by the term? Do you feel offended by the language that has been used by Digvijay Singh to describe a woman?
I am extremely aghast at the silence of Ms. Natarajan, but I do understand possibly she might have a compulsion as to not come out openly and rebuke Mr. Digvijay Singh because of party compulsions for such an offensive remark that he made. But I'm of the opinion that Mr. Digvijay Singh has time and again manufactured controversies to keep himself in the news, but this particular remark reflects on what Mr. Digvijay Singh particularly thinks about women in politics.
All right, we also have editor Meenakshi Natarajan with us on the phone line right now. Ms. Kishwat, don't you think too much is being made out of this comment? Because Digvijay Singh could well explain this as a colloquial term to describe one of the leaders in her state who's working in her constituency. We do hear in the context of the speech that he's making that he's describing himself to be a jeweler who can tell real from a fake.
No doubt that it all depends on the person who's making these statements, and we know Mr. Digvijay Singh has stayed in the news in the last 10 years primarily by making a nuisance of himself, he's become a court jester for Mrs. Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. Truly a court jester. He's become such a laughing stock. And to think that this man was the once all-powerful chief minister of a state, I really feel it's a tragic fall. And his party at one time used to see in him a prime ministerial aspirant or prime ministerial material person. That's how he was at one time seen and projected, at least in party circles. Now, if this is what the guru is doing, you can well imagine why Mr. Rahul Gandhi is doing so poorly, because this is the mentor for Rahul Gandhi.
All right.
This is the man who's supposed to train him into politics, into the art and thou page of politics. And no wonder Rahul ji is performing so poorly. It's in bad taste, that phrase. It also shows a very patronizing and demeaning attitude, because obviously Meenakshi Natarajan is his hand-picked protege. So he thinks he can take any kind of liberties with her, even while ostensibly complimenting her. If this is the kind of Johari the Congress party has, no wonder they are getting the kind of heras that they are getting, which are really making the Congress party ship sink. So good luck to Mr. Digvijay Singh. Keep on, Munna Bhai. You will make sure the Congress never returns to power, not in this election, but for times to come. Good luck,
right,
Diggi Raja.
All right, Madhu Kishwar, I want you to stay on with me. We still have Smriti Irani, Vice President of the BJP, with us, and who is aghast by the objectification of women, as she described it. We'll just go back to her in a moment. Madhu, if I could come back to you, Ms. Kishwar, one moment again. The fact that Mr. Digvijay Singh shoots off his mouth very often, and of course it irks the BJP no end, considering that he goes after them. But this time around, do you think incidents like these will keep repeating? Because he's never reined in by the party. In fact, he's given a free run by the Congress.
I think it has to do with the fact that when men feel impotent, when they feel politically subservient, subservience does horrible things to human psyche, especially male psyche. Somehow women are able to handle with subservience just a wee bit better than men. And it reminds me of a conversation I had with Digvijaya many years ago in Madhya Pradesh when he was still Chief Minister. And I asked him, why don't you take more interest in national politics? And he said, are you mad, Madhu? In Indian system of governance, only three people matter: DM, CM and PM. And I know if I go to Delhi, my status will be like that of a lowly courier. I'll have no status, no power. That's how the Congress party works. Now, unfortunately for him, he's had to come into Delhi Darbar, where there is really no power. He's lost the ability to win even his own seat. And Congress party has seen the most tragic decline in Madhya Pradesh.
Right.
Under his regime, and then thereafter he left. He doesn't dare go there except to plant a few prodigies here and there. And even Meenakshi ji had to pick her up from the south somewhere, right?
Right.
There is, I don't know, local talent available in, but that's not the point. Wherever she comes from, I'm sure she's a hard-working person. I have nothing against her. But as they say, yatha raja tatha praja. And if you have rajas who are dithering, who are tottering, who are clueless, who are directionless, but these courtiers have to keep making appropriate noises in order to make a pretense of doing something. So the only kind of noises they have been making is attack the BJP. That's a full-time occupation. Now, any party which only has a negative agenda, which has only chosen a one-point program for itself, namely attack BJP right or wrong, demonize Modi no matter what means, fear of foul or poisonous.
Ms.
That's
Kishwar,
the one-point
in fact, as you
program.
bring up
What
that
is going to
subject,
come out of such a man's mouth?
as you bring out that subject, can I just take you back to the comment that Narendra Modi had made about 50,000 crore girlfriend, and there was so much furor over it. Of course, Congress leaders, including Shashi Tharoor too, had commented saying, "My wife is priceless. What would Narendra Modi know?" Do you think this comment by Mr. Digvijaya Singh is going to deeply embarrass the Congress party?
Least of the offending comments that Digvijaya Singh has made. If you ask me, this is the most mild. His invectives, his poisonous barbs at the BJP, irresponsible attacks against Modi, obscene kind of attacks against the leading opposition party in the country, and a person who is now seen as the key challenger to Congress power.
Right.
You know, the kind of irresponsible, poisonous language this man uses. Then his patronizing of terrorists. Today, the only people Congress has left in its arsenal to produce as representatives of Muslims and Muslim victimhood are the Sohrabuddins and the Azim, what's his name? You know, all these people accused of terrorism, the Bhai Log. Even in Gujarat, people say it repeatedly, even Muslims. One of the most telling comments that I heard from hundreds of Muslims in Gujarat, that the Congress politics in Gujarat depended on Muslim dons. And the best thing that Narendra Modi has done for them is to liberate them from Bhai Log and Muslim dons, as well as their counterparts in the Hindu community.
Right. Right. Ms. Kishwar, I want you
saying,
to stay on with me because I believe people do want to listen to what Digvijaya Singh in fact said, his distasteful off-color remark which has made BJP shocked, and in fact it's created quite a controversy. Smriti Irani, the Vice President of the party, has said that she's aghast by the comments that Digvijaya Singh, the Congress leader, has made. Let's listen in to what exactly did Digvijaya Singh say.
मीनाक्षी नटराजन जी आपकी लोकसभा की सदस्य अंधीवादी है, सरल है, ईमानदार है, सबके पास जाती है, गांव-गांव जाती है। मैं अभी कल से इनके इलाके में देख रहा हूं, मुझे भी 40-42 साल का अनुभव है, मैं भी पुराना जौहरी हूं राजनीति के ऊपर। थोड़ी सी बात पड़ जाता, कौन फर्जी है कौन सही है। ये 100 टन माल है और गरीबों की लड़ाई लड़ती है, गरीबों की लड़ाई लड़ती है और मंदसौर जैसे जिले की गुटबाजी में नहीं पड़ती।